it was pretty clear. It was made pretty clear that why Jesus was doing that. Although it did kind of feel like when he knocked a few tables over that he was like it was like an attitude thing. Like
Yeah.
my house is supposed to be quiet, a place of prayer, supposed to be this. Now you people are making all this noise. I'm gonna knock your table over. Like in some ways it felt that way, but when you think about that, that's beautiful because that is strictly about a personal relationship between you and God. That's what that's about. It's not even about, oh, this isn't legal for you to have all these things here. No,
Mm,
that's a technicality. The point is, it's a personal relationship, and
yeah.
God is not hearing his people pray. God wants to have that relationship, and we're getting in the way of all that stuff. And so that felt pretty cool when I thought about that.
Yeah, that is cool.
Um,
No, you saw The Chosen last night.
I did. Let's watch the trailer really quick.
Okay.
You must know something. I do believe that Jesus is most likely the Messiah.
Why?
Why what?
Why do you believe that?
I've seen too much.
Then why are you doing this?
I suppose I have not seen enough.
Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem.
You can run on for a long time.
My house should be called a house of prayer, but you make it a den of thieves!
By what authority are you doing these things?
My own!
Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
We have a problem. Jesus operates entirely outside our jurisdiction. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees! Stop this at once! The world is changing, and Jesus offers a vision to redeem it.
He's not the Messiah!
Telling that God's gonna cut you down.
Declaring yourself a sovereign. Rome will descend on us all.
Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
The Pharisees are plotting to arrest Jesus of Nazareth.
Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
I want peace, just like you. If you go through with this, our alliance is over.
Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
There is talk of a collaborator from within of his own followers.
So I tell that midnight rider,
City's on edge. If you succeed, I'll be the one left to pick up the pieces.
go tell that long-tongued liar.
I ask that you keep your distance from me in Jerusalem these next few days.
Why?
Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
You serpents! How will you escape being condemned to hell?
What have you done?
Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
Woo!
Mm,
I love that trailer. So
that is-
I did see it last night.
How was it?
Part one, they call it. It was very good. Part one includes episode one and episode two. So every a new part is going to be released every week until up to Easter, I think. I think that's how it goes.
Wow.
And I think on is it on Easter Day or something? I don't know, but they're going to play all the parts in one day. So if you missed a part over the next few weeks, you can pick it up all on the last day.
Nice.
So that trailer is incredible. In fact, the trailer has a pacing to it that the show kind of lacks, which it was kind of sad for me because I love that trailer. I love the pacing of it. It kind of reminds me, it is the Johnny Cash probably, but it reminds me of a Western, kind of a
Yeah.
showdown between good and evil.
Yeah.
And the for especially I love the overturning of the tables. Just not just as it played out, but as a theme. I just
Yeah.
love it as a theme.
Right.
And they showed in the first part that I watched last night, they showed some of this from the perspective of Gentiles who want to kind of join the faith and come in, and they're like asking some of the disciples to explain some of the temple life and what they have to do during Passover and what it all means. And so they're learning, basically they're learning how to be Jews as
Wow.
as Gentiles.
Yeah.
And so many people today even still don't understand the Jewish faith. They think it's all Jews versus Gentiles. A Gentile is never allowed to become a Jew. This is just simply false.
Yeah.
This always has been false. People who are Gentiles can become Jews actually. So being a Jew is not a race or even really a nationality. It is a nationality, but it's more of a faith, and you can join that faith, right? So um the whole idea of the Jewishness being a bloodline or a nationality was the idea that Jesus would come from the line of David. And so mothers would be like, is my son going to be this person? Am I from the tribe of Judah? Are they coming from this line? And also, part of the law was training up your children to be good, um, kind of keepers of the law. And so, being good at reading the Bible and all those things, those were all very important things to do and learn. So, there's traditions to uphold and keep, and the law to understand, and a lot of reading of the Bible. I mean, the Jewish culture essentially made the world literate, the whole world literate, because they have a great tradition of literacy in the Jewish culture. And they're, imagine if our holidays were about reading. Well, theirs are. Their holidays are all about reading
Yeah.
from scripture. We
And
would be bored. We would be bored by that. We'd be like, kids would be like, why do we have to read things?
yeah.
Because I told you to. Shut up. you know, like that, I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's what the culture was.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of interesting seeing Jews in this, or Gentiles rather, learning about the Jewish culture at Passover in the Chosen. Like that's just kind of interesting. And so people were explaining all of the things happening, and oh, you have to pay for this, and oh, you have to pay for that, and it's starting to not look good anymore. Like
Wow.
it's like, well, you have to pay that, and the exchange rate is pretty terrible, and all this stuff. And so all this stuff was true at this time of Jesus. They had That's what turning over of the money changers' tables was about, right?
Yeah.
It was about reforming the temple, being a reformer, which I've told many people before. Jesus was a reformer. He was a religious reformer. So people who are like, "Oh, you can't be Protestant." That's when has the church ever been Protestant reforming things? What are you talking about? The prophets are reformers. Jesus is a reformer. All these people are reformers of these religions that get out of control, right? These religions become human religions. They get out of control. People start adding laws on top of things, stuff that was never required or even encouraged by God. And he even said, don't do it. And then the people did it anyway. So, and that was also in this part, in part one, is them telling these Gentiles, well, these things were added, and look out. And so soon after that, it shows Christ, it shows Jesus looking on at the crowds and watching all these things happening in the crowds and kind of getting disturbed by it. He's like, he put his cloak on and he goes out at night or when people aren't watching him, and it shows him kind of like disturbed watching all these things. Um, so the trailer was filmed a little bit differently. The pacing was a little different. The
Yeah.
show is it felt a little more fractured than the normal Chosen show. I feel like they're trying to kind of tie a lot of things together to kind of bring more context. But if that's not edited in a really smooth way, it can feel very choppy. So that's kind of how it felt. It felt a little bit disjointed and choppy in places. I think they were trying to accomplish this kind of like visual chaos in between the money changers doing their thing and Christ kind of mourning on the side at watching what's happening, kind of sad for his people, for Jerusalem. Um, and so that kind of it kind of gave Jesus the impetus, right, to go and fashion a whip, which the Bible does say he fashioned a whip. Um, and but then some of that wasn't executed in a way that I thought was the most interesting way to do it. Like it has John following him and watching him while he's fashioning the whip. That didn't
Yeah.
seem necessary to me. Um, but uh, and then the way the trailer shows how that confrontation plays out was very elegant, but the way the show shows it, he starts going in there and having confrontations with people, right?
Mm,
It doesn't feel as systematic and planned out in the show. It feels more like he starts having confrontations and then he knocks over a table and then he's like, okay, all you people out of here. And then he doesn't even really confront the Jews until later.
mm,
It's more like he's kind of like creating a flurry in the crowd and getting rid of these people and knocking over their tables. And then as they start asking him, what do you like, what's going on? Then he starts talking to them, but that even hasn't even happened yet. It
mm,
ended with him confronting them and looking at the Pharisees after he had knocked over all these tables. And they're looking at him like, I can't believe this guy did all that in front of everybody. And so a lot of those personal interactions you see in the trailer, where he's like, how could you have done this? You know, like what by what authority do you do these things? That hasn't happened yet in part one.
oh,
And my
okay.
feeling is that's going to happen in the beginning of the next part because it's like they ended with that cliffhanger of him looking at the Pharisees and they're looking at him
Hmm.
and he's like, oh, angry. He's clenching his teeth. Although I have to say, it was beautiful watching him knock those tables over
I feel like I could watch Jesus knock tables over every, like all day. Like I
yeah,
could just watch that all day.
all day. Compilation,
Yes, a
table
complete.
knockover compilation of Jesus. Yep.
Yes.
More turning of the tables? Yes. More?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just a loop.
Just a loop. 2 hours, 3 hours of turning tables over. And then him laying in the grass. After that. That
Yes,
would just be great.
absolutely.
Um, he's my hero. Um,
Mine too.
yeah. So it's good to see someone care about these things. I liked that Jesus was like, it was pretty clear. It was made pretty clear that why Jesus was doing that.
Yeah.
Um, although it did kind of feel like when he knocked a few tables over that he was like, it was like an attitude thing. Like
Yeah.
my house is supposed to be quiet, a place of prayer, supposed to be this. Now you people are making all this noise. I'm gonna knock your table over. Like in some ways it felt that way, but when you think about that, that's beautiful because that is strictly about a personal relationship between you and God. That's what that's about. It's not even about, oh, this isn't legal to for you to have all these things here. No,
Mm,
that's a technicality. The point is it's a personal relationship and
yeah.
God is not hearing his people pray. God wants to have that relationship and we're getting in the way of all that stuff. And so that felt pretty cool when I thought about that.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah. there are some other things. I did like a lot of the relationships that conversation between, I don't know if you remember in the trailer, one guy said, I'm gonna have to clean up all the pieces. I think that was Herod, the tetrarch. Um, and he's the one who watched the lady dance and then killed John the Baptist. He's the guy. Um, he's pretty amazing as an actor. But
Yeah.
also Caiaphas, he's a pretty amazing too. So to get these two amazing actors going back and forth with each other over some food, um, is was really good. It
Yeah.
was probably the best scene in these first two episodes
Awesome.
because you're literally watching them chew up scenery. It's like it's great. Um, there was some other good stuff. You know, some of the disciple stuff felt a little bit tacked on. It's like they have to show their reaction to things and they feel the need to do that. But these are big events happening. So it might be hard going between these small events with each individual disciple and these large events.
Yeah.
I think it can feel a little bit like whiplash at times when you're going between these big events and also the Pharisees to the disciples and all their emotions about this whole thing. I did like that they used a device, which was the Last Supper itself, to
Yeah.
tie together a lot of scenes. And so these two episodes starts out with Jesus at the table, and then it goes back to the past, which is the triumphal entry, which they kind of make into a fun scene with the music. And then which was nice. And so you're seeing basically the future first, which is them at the Last Supper. And it's a little somber. It's a little serious. He's kind of reminding people what's going to happen. He's talked about it before, right? He's like, this must happen. A seed must go into the ground and die for it to bear fruit. And this is all in the Gospels, John mostly. And so it's kind of somber for a lot of the disciples. They don't know why he keeps talking in this kind of morbid way, seemingly
Yeah.
morbid way, and also that he must be gone so the Comforter may come. And so two of the disciples, Mary Magdalene and John, are kind of figuring this out. They're kind of some of the people behind the scenes who are like talking, going, "Why is he talking this way?"
Yeah.
And so it's like they have this extra bit of quizzical nature to them, and they're dealing with this mystery of why this is happening. And so that's kind of fun to watch a little bit, but it's also kind of like, it feels like whiplash because it's going between these small thoughts, right? Between these disciples that seemingly don't need to be there, and then whipping back to the Last Supper or whipping back to the Pharisees and how terrible these leaders are being.
Mm.
Um, and so it kind of it it doesn't have the great pacing of that trailer, right? The unified, harmonious tone to it and pacing maybe lacked the amount of time that they needed to that they've usually had to edit it and to put the time and energy into making it perfect, you know? Yeah. But I love that they're tying it all together with the Last Supper. So it feels like at every episode they're going to have some moment in the Last Supper, some part of his beautiful sermon there. Uh,
Yeah.
at some point, he's going to get to the end of that where he's like, I want us to be one as me and the Father are one. And he's going to be pointing to this united nature of the whole church, how it's going to be. Because that's just such mind-blowing doctrine that you're just like, what?
Mhm.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, so that's probably going to happen at some point, and
Good.
yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I like it. I mean, I think maybe the last, I don't remember. which I need to go through the seasons again because one of the seasons, I don't remember if it was season 2 or 3 or even 4, one of them was just so good.
Mm,
Whole season was all like just hitting on all cylinders.
yeah.
I think this one might be the second or third best.
Yeah.
It's still very impactful, but it's probably not the best season we've seen so far. And again, I'm judging this very early on. It's just the first 2 um, episodes, so enjoying it. It's really good. It's worth seeing for sure.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm gonna see it tomorrow night.
That's right. We're gonna see it together. Be great.
I'm gonna see it with you.
Yeah.
But I love the those last few chapters in the Gospel of John. And it seems like it seems like all of that praying and all of that amazing stuff that he says is happening right there at the table with his disciples.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it could be happening in the garden, but I think it's happening right there,
Hmm.
which is interesting because in the other gospels they keep it a little shorter.
Yeah.
They keep the conversation a little simpler, but I guess John was just writing away. He was just like scribbling and writing down everything Jesus said, and maybe the other disciples had too much of the cup.
Well, maybe that's why they had those special scenes of him and Mary kind of thinking about these things farther because it's really revealing that he was thinking about those things in a deeper
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
He probably, because he was thinking about all these thoughts, he included it in his gospel where a lot of the other disciples maybe didn't pick up on it, you know?
Yeah.